Guys, I want to thank the sponsors of the podcast. I want to thank goHunt.com. My friend Cody Nelson of 20 plus years. He's the optics manager over there. If you guys need any optical needs at all, anything to do with glassing, binoculars, tripods, spotting scopes, rifle scopes, anything to do with glassing, give Cody a call. 602-399-3699. That is his cell phone. You can also text him at that number. You can also call him at goHunt at 702-847-8747. I want to thank goHunt Optics for their sponsorship of the podcast. Guys, I also want to let you know that goHunt maps have been released and they are right now available to insider members. I have had an intimate role in this goHunt mapping process of getting these maps just how we need them. They are awesome for Western hunters. goHunt Maps is built for Western hunters. goHunt's first focus has always been creating solutions for hunters like us to make them as successful as possible, both for themselves and for the advancement of conservation. With the launch of goHunt Maps app, Western hunters are empowered to meet their needs all in one platform, discovering hunts with filtering 2.0 and draw odds, and preparing with expertise and gear, and now take maps into the field. Guys, I've had an intimate role in helping develop the app, and I think you're really going to like it. Make sure you're an insider member, so go to gohunt.com/jscott and sign up for an insider membership if you're not already an insider. I also want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. That is the gear that I wear on all of my hunts. To find out more, you can go to KUIU.com. It's a direct-to-consumer company. You can order all of the products directly off the website. That's the only place you can get it. Go to KUIU.com. PhoneScope is the adapter I use to take videos and photos right from my iPhone 12 Pro right through my spotting scope or binoculars. Go to phonescope.com, use the JScott21 promo code, and you're going to get a 10% discount. Guys, let's get right to the episode. Guys, welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today I've got a couple friends of the podcast and of mine. I've got John Adams and Kevin Call of High Point Outfitters. Guys, how are you?
Doing great. How are you doing, Jay?
Good. I look forward to having you both on. I know the listeners enjoy having you guys on and listening to me pick you guys' brain a little bit. I want to talk to you today with our deadline of our Arizona deer and sheep regulations coming up here. I think it's the 9th of June. I want to talk deer, and I know you guys are Kaibab nuts, so I want to talk primarily about the Kaibab. Before we get to that, though, the Arizona elk and antelope draw is obviously out, and everybody's kind of got their schedule. You guys live in Flagstaff. Give us kind of a overview of what we're looking like right now.
It's looking good, as far as, everything's starting to green up. It's definitely looking green. But as far as how the elk are going to roll into this year, as everyone knows from the drought last year, we're all waiting to see.
Do you think it's one of these deals where it's so dry that the writing's already on the wall, or are you still in the category of thinking that if we could get some early monsoon rains, maybe it will bail itself out a little bit?
Man, I think everyone is 50-50 right now. Talking with other guides, outfitters, our guides. It's some people are positive thinking, and some people are negative thinking. I was looking at the inches of rain that we got last year. We only got 10 inches last year. In the year prior we got 27 inches. Going into this year, we're already at like 5 inches. So we're where we get most of our moisture is in monsoon season. So it, like currently right now, looking outside, you would not think we are in a drought. It looks green. The grass looks green. me and Kevin both have ponds in our yard, and we always talk about that every year, gauging off of kind of where we're at. My pond only filled up a third of the way this year, and usually it overflows. Kevin's didn't get any water. So, that's kind of just, what we're kind of seeing and stuff like that as far as around here. But reservoirs, lakes, they're definitely not overflowing by any means.
Okay, so let's talk about the Kaibab. We had the big fire last year. Talk about the status of the Kaibab from a fire perspective, from a road closure perspective, getting around perspective. Where are we at with what's going on in the Kaibab?
Jay, we've been on the Kaibab a few times already. We love the Kaibab. So, and our guys, we're up turkey hunting and horn hunting and just looking around. Had some guys actually setting up cameras last weekend. I typically wait till Memorial Day to set cameras, so we'll be heading up next weekend. But overall, Jay, there's water in some dirt tanks on the Kaibab right now that didn't have water in the fall. So I think that's a good thing. We had some decent runoff. The grass really is just starting to pop out in the burn all around Jacob Lake, at that 8,000 foot level. The grass is starting to get pretty green. I know the Forest Service reseeded about 50% of the burn, which is a good thing. Hopefully we'll get some moisture, in July, August to really pop that feed. But that feed is just starting to come out with the winter moisture we had. And some probably will say, well, why did they only reseed 50% of it? A lot of that burn happened on such steep slopes from Mangum Canyon, north all the way to, the Utah border. Some of that is really moonscape. I mean, some of the fire was actually pretty bad. It's pretty moonscape. So that, 50% they reseeded that felt like they had a good chance. It was, it was not steep and not moonscape. And those areas are starting to pop out. I saw it 2 weekends ago when I went up over the Kaibab, it's starting to pop out. The other nice thing is, the Game and Fish is planning to fix 7 of the catchments that were destroyed in the fire. So they're going to fix that. They're going to put 6 new catchments in the fire, really just getting ready for, the deer to take off in that burn. And we know, every hunter knows that the burns are good things to be in for, reproduction and for feed. And so those deer will move into the burn. They already started to move into the burn a little bit last year, but if we get some feed, they'll need those water catchments. That's really good. You had mentioned the roads, the big roads coming off the top, the 22 road coming off the bottom. Those roads were all closed last year, which really, caused and wreaked some havoc. Those roads are open now. They tell me that unless they get a washout this summer, those roads will remain open during the hunt. So hopefully that is the case. That certainly benefits everybody on the early hunt and late hunt to have those roads open. So let's hope they're right.
With the fire that happened, in your opinion, last year with the roads being closed, do you feel like there were deer that made it through because of some of those access points being closed off? And could it potentially have saved some bucks that could potentially be bigger this year? And do you think there's enough of them that potentially slipped through that are holdover bucks because of those closures? Or do you think it was a non-issue?
Oh, no, it was definitely an issue, Jay. I mean, I know, most hunters that hunt the Kaibab, there's such an amazing road system, especially on the west side, not so much on the east side, but on the west side, the road system is almost too many roads. But and so people hunted where they could access via vehicle and the roads. There was virtually no hunting pressure at all in the road closed areas. We hunted a little bit of it, but it's it's steep country. It's hard to hunt to get from canyon to canyon without roads, and there's certainly the accessible country was so easy to hunt with roads. So there was definitely deer that stayed in the burn. Of course, all burns, burn like in mosaic patterns, right? And so there's certain areas that weren't even touched by the fire that were all closed off, and there were certainly deer there, but difficult to get to. So there was definitely some deer spared last year because of the burn and the road closure, for sure.
You talk about the replanting, the reseeding, if you will, on 50%. In your opinion, will that reseeding, even though deer are browsers, do you feel like that fresh reseed, that those deer will benefit greatly from that specifically?
Yeah, I do. They hit this time of year. They start hitting whatever's green, and they do. Of course, they're browsers, like you say, but they do 25% of their habit. Their intake is grass, so they will hit that green. Any little bit of green, and last year the oak started to pop out real nicely with just a little bit of moisture, and it doesn't take much. I mean, 2 weeks of moisture, those aspens and oaks will start to pop out nicely. But right now, that green grass is coming out, and the deer are pounding it. We've been watching them in the green grass. They're pounding it, and it'll just get better and better and better if we get some good summer moisture.
Okay, and then if in another, I guess, a little more than a month, if July 4th of July time frame, we start getting some consistent monsoon, because the deer grow their antlers longer than elk, do you think that if we could get some early monsoon and consistent monsoon, that they can really pack on the inches, those deer that are in the burn and found their way to the burn areas?
Yeah, so I mean, the difference with the Kaibab is the deer summer at 9,000 feet elevation, so they're up higher to where it's not so much like the strip, right? Those deer summer at 6,000, 7,000 feet elevation on the strip. Well, with less moisture, those deer can continue to go up in elevation until they hit water, moisture, green grass, aspens and stuff like that, where the Kaibab does not necessarily get affected so much as the strip does with moisture.
Okay, so you're saying the Kaibab deer overall don't get impacted, and you don't see the fluctuations in antlers near as much as you do on the strip, and what you're saying is it's because of the high elevation, and that they're already at the high elevation where they've got green grass and green feed, and they're not near as affected by drought like, say, the strip deer are.
Yes, 100%. Yep.
Okay. With that being said, moving forward, what is your forecast as far as antler growth? And I know it's too early probably to make an accurate prediction, but what are you thinking as far as moving forward, guys looking to apply on the Kaibab, specifically the west side where the fire was? Do you think it will be at least average, or do you think it potentially could be better than average with the reseed?
Yeah, I think it's going to be average, Jay, and kind of tag on to John's point. The water and moisture and all that, it doesn't nearly affect the deer as bad on the Kaibab as out on the strip, but certainly it affects it some. And the better the moisture we get, the better off we are. But really, on the Kaibab, what benefits is age class, and we've got a phenomenal age class right now on the Kaibab, and age class trumps water on the Kaibab. Certainly, that's not the case on the Strip. I mean, water's huge on the Strip, but not so much on the Kaibab. So I think we're going to be average. Maybe if we get lucky with a good monsoon and we get that last, 4 to 6 weeks antler growth, we could actually do a little better than average. But we have such a strong age class right now in the Kaibab. I think we're going to be just fine.
Okay, let's talk about the tag allocations. It seems like they've lowered some of the tags, and go through those and tell me what your thoughts are and how that will impact not only this year's hunt but potentially next year's hunt.
Yeah, it's interesting. The early Kaibab for the last 3 years have been 450 tags. They moved it to 375. So they reduced 75 tags, which is 17% reduction. The biggest reason for that reduction is not necessarily the condition of the bucks. It's all contingent upon fawn recruitment. Talking with the Game and Fish, we track the Kaibab as strong as we possibly can, not only for us but for our hunters. And the Game and Fish guys tell me the last 2 years have been the worst recorded years in history on the Kaibab for surveys for fawn recruitment. So what that means is the last 2 years of drought, the fawn recruitment has been pretty poor. So they're not worried about the hunts this year or next, but 3 to 4 years down the road, they're concerned about it. So I applaud the Game and Fish that they're actively, proactively managing the deer herd for future years. So that's a huge plus. Again, it won't really, there's going to be less yearling bucks this year running around, but of course, most folks are not shooting yearlings or even 2-year-old bucks on the Kaibab. So it won't affect us this year, but certainly it could down to future years. The other thing where they reduced the tags was the youth doe hunts. Last year they had 300 doe hunts. This year they moved it to 100. I think that's, again, if they're, lack of fawn recruitment, they've got to have the does on the landscape to be able to generate those fawns. And so I applaud them. I think that's good to keep as many deer on the landscape as possible. So really, overall, I think that's a huge benefit. The late hunt on the Kaibab, it's been 75 for the last 3 years. They've kept it there. That's not a real strain on the resources. Those 75 tags is the lowest tag numbers they've ever had on the 7 West, in the 12A West. Those are the lowest numbers they've ever had on the Kaibab. So we're at historic low numbers, yet probably producing some of the best bucks we've ever had. So I'm hoping, they'll be able to keep it like that. 12A East, late hunt went from 30 to 20. Of course, a 33% reduction on the late hunt on 12A East. Again, they're just trying to protect the resource there. They're a little worried about the east side. They're certainly not. We saw this last year, John hunted the east side late hunt last year, but the deer are just not moving off onto the winter range like they normally do. The Game and Fish guys that I've talked to, they're convinced that those bucks are moving into 12B to winter rather than 12A East. And I think that's interesting because, we used to be able to hunt along the coxcombs down on the Buffalo Waters and down the typical winter range in 12A East at Saddle Mountain Wilderness. The deer just don't seem to be there. And the Game and Fish guys are telling us they're staying in 12B. So that's interesting to me that, that's kind of what's going on. The other big change, the archery hunt, again, they've moved that down by 17% on the Kaibab. They're down to 375. Again, that's the lowest number they've ever had on the archery hunt. The archery hunt, they tell me they're killing as many bucks on the archery hunt as they are on the early rifle hunts. So, people are getting more productive on the archery hunts, archery equipment, better. We probably talk about the over-the-counter. We can wait for that discussion, but the archery hunters are just getting more productive and spending more time on the Kaibab, and they're killing as many on the archery hunt as the rifle hunt. So they've reduced that archery hunt down as well, kind of for the same reason. So overall, we're having decreases in 12A, both east and west side, and 12B, both west and just 12B. We've got reductions going on, except for the late hunt on the 12A west.
Okay. Let's go through each unit, and I want to ask you guys, in your opinion, realistic expectations for someone that draws the tag. And let's start over on the east side, early hunt. I'm not going to talk about archery on this specifically. I'm talking about rifle, east side, early hunt. What's your realistic expectation that someone should expect to see as far as deer numbers, buck numbers, and kind of quality size of bucks? And maybe if everything goes right, X type of buck, like a 180 buck or 190 buck or a 200 buck or whatever.
Yeah, no, Jay, and it's tough, right? Like, because every hunter obviously is different.
Right.
I try to pair myself with a hunter that's willing to eat his tag, to go big or go home. But if my hunter wants to shoot 160 buck, he can easily do that on that hunt, on the early hunts on the east side. But typically on the early hunts and late hunts, we don't want our clients to shoot anything under 180.
Okay, under 180.
But under 180 on all units.
Okay, so let's just stay on the east side. 160 to 170 bucks, but you're trying for 180 plus bucks. With the reduction in tags from 30 to 20 on the east, obviously they did that for a reason, but do you as an outfitter kind of lick your chops and say, wow, there's only going to be 20 guys? I still think we can pound out on that late hunt, one or two really good bucks. Is that your thinking, or are you like...
Yes, 100%.
And like 200-inch type bucks, or more like 190 plus type bucks?
Yes. So we try to we're killing just as good as bucks on the early hunts as we are on the late hunts, and it's not because they're just as easy to kill. They're harder to kill, obviously, on the early hunt. It's just we know obviously what's there, and we'll hold out until they make a mistake. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Or whatever. But there is 200-inch bucks on the Kaibab. I mean, they're killed on every archery, muzzleloader, early rifle, late rifle. They're killed on the Kaibab. Now, if you had asked me 5 years ago, you'd be lucky to kill a 200-inch buck on the Kaibab. I mean, we grinded to kill a 200-inch buck on the Kaibab. Now, I think you can do it on every single hunt, or at least see one if you grind it out.
Okay. Well, that sounds like it's trending in the positive direction, which is great to hear.
Yeah, like what Kevin said with the fawn and stuff like that. I do not know here, say in 3 years, if that's still going to be the case. But currently, right now, even going into this year, right now, there will be 200-inch bucks on the Kaibab. The age class is there. And like I said, it's not the Kaibab does not get affected as much as other units. Okay. So as far as people being nervous, are you nervous to go max points on the Kaibab right now? Dude, that's a tough call. But as 12A East, I would say, yes, there's a 200-inch buck on the east side. Yes, we know there is. We have trail cam pictures of them. We've seen them, and they're still on the hoof. So,
Okay, let's talk about the west side. Give me kind of your expectations on the early hunt and on the late hunt.
Okay, so Jay, I mean, and I agree with John. We're killing as good a bucks on the early hunt or the late hunt on the west side. The benefit on the east side is we can scout. We know where the deer are, and before they move, we got 4 or 5 days to kill those good bucks. We know exactly where they're at and get it done. Whereas on the late hunt, of course, it's a rut hunt. We just cover the numbers, and covering the numbers is super fun on the late hunt. You can see 15, 20 bucks a day on that late hunt. It is a fun hunt. You got to stay off the trigger, off those 180 class bucks to be able to kill a 200-inch buck. But we kill 200-inch bucks every year on the late hunt, and we do on the early hunt as well. But they're just not as as easy to find. So we prefer. I would tell your audience, we do prefer the west side over the east side. The west side has more water. The west side is producing better deer at the moment, and there's 80% of the deer are on the west side and only 20% of the deer on the east side. So you are hunting with less people on the east side, but I think both John and I are more confident on the west side, no matter what the weather pattern is, what's going on. We prefer that west side. So to answer your question, I would say, realistic 180 on the early hunt and 190 to 200 on the west side, with both hunts having, a realistic chance of a whopper buck on the Kaibab like they're known for.
Okay, one more question about that. With the fire and with it being more open, is there a potential for guys, like yourself that know the area well and other outfitters that I've talked to, do you actually feel like this year with the fire and having the ability to glass and know where these deer are, that you actually have in the first couple of days of the early hunt a pretty darn good chance to better than before when it was thicker because of pre-burn? Do you think there's a chance to whack a couple good bucks just because it's more open and you can see them?
Oh, for sure, Jay. The warm fire was 2006, so that's 15 years ago, and really the last 5 to 6 years, the warm fire burn is pretty difficult to hunt, pretty socked in. So burn again. We wouldn't complain if it burned all over again. But the Mangum fire, we're excited, man. It's opened up. The Mangum fire burned 72,000 acres. People maybe not realize it's twice the size of the warm fire. And most of the warm fire burned on the east side, not the west side. That whole 72,000 acres, 95% of it is all on the west side. So we're excited to have that new burn to hunt, new vegetation, new stuff to glass. We're excited about it. And I tell you, the warm fire changed from night to day when it burned. I guarantee you the Mangum fire will be the same way. It will change the Kaibab for years to come, and we're just at the start of it. It's probably 2 years away from being peak. And I hope the fawn recruitment will just go off the charts because of that new burn like they usually do. And we'll just kind of, lose the last 2 years of poor fawn recruitment. Will come back because of this burn. So absolutely, the new burn will be better next year probably than this year just because of the age of the burn, but it will be good this year.
Okay, good to know. If you guys want to throw anything out there on the Kaibab that we didn't talk about or any of the other 12B hunts, feel free to do so. If you have any additional comments, then I want to ask you about any miscellaneous deer hunts, other deer hunts around, maybe around Flag or anything else out there that you're kind of eyeballing or that, you think people will want to know about. So any additional muzzleloader or 12B hunts or any of that you want to talk about?
Yeah, 12B is, it is not the Kaibab. It's actually, the strip. And it's hard to explain that to people, but the 12B West and 12B, touch the Kaibab. So it is, we had just as many hunters in 12B West and 12B as we had on 12A West and 12A East. All of them, we pretty much all consider 12B, 12B West, 12A West, 12A East, all the Kaibab. And, I'd say pretty much 90% consider the strip 13A, 13B. But the 12B West early hunt last year was definitely tough. That's where I was at. And it was that fire definitely did change their migration route last year. They held up a little longer in the higher country. I think this year it is going to change, and I think they will roll into 12B West earlier this year, rather than holding up so long in the high country. They held up even during the late hunts. They held up high. And I do think, with moisture and vegetation, I think they could bail off earlier this year. But yeah, all four of those units are the same bucks. They share the same bucks, whether the bucks roll into the winter range in one unit or summer range, vice versa. So all four of those units are exactly the same, and we hunt all four of those units.
Okay, good stuff. What about anything around Flagstaff? 7, 8, 5B, any of those units? Is there anything else that you guys look at as far as non-Kaibab mule deer spots?
Last year we had a late 7 hunter. On occasion they'll throw these late hunts. 5B on occasion will have a late hunt, December hunt. 7 had a late hunt. So we do hunt, but man, it's the numbers of hunters that we deal with off of the Kaibab or units here around Flagstaff. It's an occasional hunt. And of course, we know the area because we've been hunting it for a long time, and it's easy for us to scout right here in Flagstaff. But quite frankly, we do more over-the-counter hunts in those units you're talking about than the rifle hunts, because they just absolutely pound those units on the rifle hunts. So we pretty much on the rifle hunt stay on the Kaibab unless they have a special December hunt in some of these other units.
What are your guys' thoughts on the OTC changes?
Jay, I think it's huge and it's warranted. Of course, maybe not all your audience knows, but they reduced 40% of the December hunts. They removed them. But Arizona was the only state in the union that had over-the-counter hunts during the rut. Impossible to keep quality or even any semblance of a decent hunt. So those over-the-counter hunts, rut hunting, over-the-counter, unfortunately, we know that the state population has doubled in the last, 7-8 years. We're having more and more non-resident hunters come to hunt that hunt. So I'm glad they did it, and they removed some of some of them have moved to whitetail only again, which I think is a good change. Unfortunately,
people pay money to hunt whitetail.
I was just gonna make sure John was awake, because he didn't pop off with any comments, and then all of a sudden he chimed in.
We just started talking about mule deer to whitetail.
We're now talking about God's chosen deer, the Coos deer. So,
man.
But overall, Kevin, you're thinking that it was just one of those things, too much pressure on the resource, and something had to be done. Is that the general consensus?
Yeah, and Jay, to me, okay, so I don't want to bag on the game fish too bad, but I give them their kudos when they deserve it, and then I have got to just speak up when I think they just totally botched this thing. And not many people know. 3 or 4 years ago, the marketing arm of the Game and Fish Department actually paid multiple social media companies, personalities, whatever you want to call it, social media guys to come down and promote that OTC hunt. Well, guess what? Look at our over-the-counter tags went through the roof. And of course, that was the objective, right? They felt like they had they needed to sell tags. They wanted to get revenue into the state, so they're selling non-resident tags and licenses, which is a great thing for the state. But 3-4 years in a row now, they've promoted it and promoted it hard, and they did it exactly what they were paid to do, and that is promote Arizona over-the-counter December, January hunts. And guess what? Now it's probably over for the vast majority of those hunts. And it's not all 100% them, of course. I mean, our resident population is doubled. We've got, there's just more people in the field. So the bottom line is the over-the-counter hunts needed to change. The other unique statistic is the archery hunters are the worst for mandatory or for reporting. They have the lowest reporting segment of all the harvests. So the Game and Fish really has no idea what the take is on that archery hunt. Non-residents from the surveys, they're spending at least a week or 10 days on that OTC hunt, whereas most of the residents are just going out on the weekends, maybe spending a couple weekends, and so the non-residents they're definitely have impacted that OTC hunt. So that's a huge deal. Another kind of nuance with this archery hunt is that probably will shock some people, but in 2017 there were only 72 crossbow permits. 72 crossbow permits. Right now there's 1,300 archery hunters that have crossbow permits. Everybody knows that crossbow permit is a huge advantage, and of course the Game and Fish objective is once 20% of the harvest is coming from the archery OTC hunts, they reduce the hunts, and most of that objective has gone over the 20%, and that's the reason for getting rid of a pile of tags. And again, I think the Game and Fish shot themselves in the foot, but the OTC hunts, I think, are probably the majority of them are behind us, unfortunately, and we've enjoyed doing that for 40 years. But quite frankly, we're the only state left in the union doing it, and it's probably about time to go to a draw, and we'll probably see that.
Well, I think you make some really valid points there for sure.
Yeah, I didn't know about the crossbow. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
I think there's definitely been some that have taken advantage of that. Certainly some that need it for sure, and rightfully so. But I think there has been some abuse of that for sure. Guys, anything
kind of like
else?
The trail cam thing, but we won't dive into that today.
You while you mention it, are you for or against it, or what do you think?
They're like coos deer, Jay.
Explain yourself.
We have.
You're treading on thin ice now.
Yeah, we have our fair share of trail cameras, that's for sure.
Right.
And we use them, and they are an unbelievable tool. But would I like to see them go? Dude, I'll take video of us chucking over 100 trail cameras right in the trash right now. Like, if they go, I don't need to sell them to some company back east or sell them to some guy in Texas. we chuck them in the trash. I just, just like to see it go back to the old ways of mystery out in the woods and boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Less tension around water holes and, but I think they're a quarter mile away from water. That's the dumbest thing they have came up with yet. So I think they just needed to push through and just ban 100% and let's move on. And some people are taking it as being infringed on their freedoms, and we got to stand behind this. I am 100% one of those people that's like, don't infringe on our freedoms. This is America. But it's the same exact thing with the crossbows, right? Like you give somebody an inch and they'll take a mile. Same thing with trail cameras, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right in my heart. It doesn't feel right. I've had plenty of people reach out to me saying they need my support or our support to help, fight the game and fish on this, and it just doesn't feel right in my heart. So I think our animals need, their fair shake at being wild, and people can say long range guns and we need to get rid of optics and all that stuff. Well, those things are not out there looking for deer while I'm at work or I am in a different state. So that's my 2 cents on it, Jake.
Okay. Kevin?
Yeah, Jay, I would like to see them kill it out of the units that it's affecting and leave the rest of the state alone, would be, I guess, my number one choice. But bottom line is, if you're going to remove them off the state, a season is, to me, that's kind of a who cares, like Nevada has done. We probably won't run cameras anyway if that happens. So, but this idea of moving them off the water, back to a quarter mile, I think instead of having one camera per outfitter, if you will, on the water, there's going to be 6 cameras on every trail coming into that water. I think it's just that's a disaster waiting to happen. So I say either remove them off the units that they're the problem, or remove them altogether. That's kind of where I'm at. What about you, Jay? I haven't heard much thought on that.
Yeah, I'm a lot more leaning on the camp of, we all know there's some problem units. Mitigate the problems where you can and let the rest of the state, let a lot of the guys that are coos deer hunters and stuff that are up on springs that, have to hike 3 miles just to get there and they're not affecting anybody. I would rather see something more like that. So maybe start out with some sort of, they're not asking me, but if they ask me my opinion, I would say take care of some of the problem areas, see how that goes, let the rest of the state kind of monitor it, and see if that could fix some of the issues and some of the problems. I think that's probably the best solution.
So Jay, what I heard is you want to benefit the whitetail hunter and screw the mule deer hunter. I heard it loud and clear. Did you hear that?
Well, what I was surprised is somebody who would walk 3 miles to get a picture of a coos deer. That's what's crazy to me.
Someday, John, you'll see the light. Someday you will see the light. I think we could sit here and, everybody's got an opinion, which is a good thing. And I think it's one of those things that we're just going to have to see what happens. Guys, it's always great having you on the podcast. Appreciate all the work that you do. Excited to see how this fall shakes out, and we all are hoping for some more moisture, and but there's we can't do anything about it, so we just do the best we can, and I know you guys fall into that boat. So thanks as always. I want to give you guys a chance to let the listeners know how they can reach out to you or how they can follow along, so I'll let you do that now.
Jay, appreciate that. If anybody out there still trying to figure out what they want to do with their deer application, reach out to us. The email is the best way. Our email is shoot, so SHOOT, at highpointoutfitters.net. That's also highpointoutfitters.net is our website. Our phone numbers and all that stuff's on there, our Facebook page, all that stuff. Yeah, we'd love to talk to anybody. Call us or shoot us an email, and we'll get you a draw strategy put together and try to get you a tag. We'd love to help anybody that draws a tag here, hopefully in a few weeks, and give us a holler.
And also, we usually try to donate one hunt to Hunts for Heroes or Wounded Warriors or whatever, and we don't have a hunt lined out this year for that. So if there's somebody interested in that, contact us.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much. God bless both of you, and we'll be chatting at you down the road, okay?
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for having us.
All right, buddy.